Okay, I'm going to tell a shark surfing story back from, this had to have been 2004, 2005. I think it was 2005. Moved back down to Southern California in 2006. So I'm in Northern California where I learned to surf, and I am surfing with a bunch of, we'd always have kind of like a crew. That's what you kind of get. You eventually get people that you meet out in the water and start kind of like exchanging phone numbers and meeting. So I'm surfing in this place called Lindemar, which is Northern California. It's one of the big surf spots. Perfect place to learn how to surf because it has a north and south swell that kind of hits. It's probably about, it's a cove, but it's probably about a mile and a quarter of beach. And it goes from the north end, which is really heavy, to the center, to the south end, which is lighter usually, wave wise. But it's always usually fairly good surf. I've had some pretty heinous times there. Maybe I'll tell another story about when my leash broke in a storm. But I basically go out, and my buddy Scott was supposed to show up, and I can't remember if we called each other or whatever, but I knew he was going to be there. So I pull into the parking lot. I see his vehicle. He's already out. I gear up and stretch out a little bit, and then start to go out. And I get to where the water is, and I can see him. This dude was blonde hair. It was funny because he was Hispanic, but he had bleach blonde hair and the whitest teeth you've ever seen. And he smoked cigarettes like a fiend, and he surfed no problem. I even asked him, I was like, dude, how can you surf and smoke? And it's one of the few sports that I've ever been involved in that you can actually smoke. Obviously not on the water, but I've gone out, had a cigarette, and then gone back out for a session. And I mean, I've done everything surfing from when I was doing it basically like most people do weekends, and they're like, yeah, I've been surfing 3 years, weekends, which is really like less than a year. I'd been surfing 2 years before I went to Hawaii, and I was surfing almost every day. Um, and anyway, so I see Scott, and it's kind of a gray, overcast, silvery day. We call them quicksilver days, where it's like you can kind of, it was, the sun's out, but not, it's like hidden by the clouds. And so it's kind of like slightly gloomy, and there was like a pack of about maybe 12, 15 surfers, and there wasn't, like the waves weren't hitting on a regular basis, and it was probably either mid to low tide. So there was a lot of people just kind of dangling, just bobbing in the waves. And what happens is when you get out there, it's basically kind of priority. It's like people that are already out there like if I paddled right out, I couldn't catch the first wave normally unless I was the only person out there. Or the second person out there, but it would basically be he would be catching on one side and I'd be catching the other. It's kind of like like when you go to Baskin Robbins and you're ordering, you grab a number and you just kind of get in line. Anyways, I see him, and so I paddle out to where he is, and as I sit up, I look, and there is a fin, probably about 40 feet out. And if any of you have ever been surfing, and you know what the difference between a dolphin and something else is. I've had actually a dolphin pop up by me, maybe 5-10 feet away, and I almost shit my suit and fell off my board. I was just like, whoa. But you see dolphins. Dolphins roll, and their fins are obviously turned around the other way, but their fin, so this is the reverse of it, so if they were going this way, their fin is curved. And when they swim, because they have their paddle mechanism in the back is like this, not this way, basically they roll. So a lot of times you'll get this fin that goes, but you can see it, and it's like a blue color to it. This was going. It had a point at the top of it, and it had a notch at the bottom where the dorsal met the top of the animal. And when it turned, it turned this way, and it was kind of like a whitish, and it went. I was not close enough to be 100% guaranteed that that's what it was, but I am about 98%. And I literally, because when I paddled out there and I got up, I hadn't even talked to Scott yet. I saw it and was like, and looked at everybody and just fucking caught the next wave in. And I'm standing in like thigh high water, holding my board, trying to because you don't want to, if you're wrong, you'll get taken to the beach and fucking worked. Because you don't, that's like a freak out session. It's like yelling fire in a theater. It's just something you don't want to do unless you know it's exactly what it is. And what had happened was, as I paddled back, I was trying to my butt was puckered and I was trying to get his attention, and nobody looked alarmed or whatever. And it was, like I said, 12 to 15 people that were dangling out there. So I saw where it was, and then it kind of went a little bit further out. So I was like, okay, it doesn't look like it's fucking interested in anybody. And I crept on my board and just slowly paddled out and got to him. And I was like, hey, Scott. And he goes, it's a dolphin, dude. And I was like, are you? And he goes, it's a dolphin. So I just kind of was like, okay, because I just kept watching it. And I surfed for a good 2 hours or hour and something, but you could have pulled my butt. I was like off that board, because it was not a great session, because you were constantly just like, what the fuck, and kind of like tucking your legs and stuff. It's not good. But whatever it was, like I said, I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure it was a great white. And whatever it was didn't care about us. It basically was hitting fish and it was hitting them out. And the three things that kind of go along with this is, one is in 2010, they actually had a great white that came in and hit a seal in Lindemar, on the south end of it, at the cove, and they evacuated the beach. 2010, you can read about it in the newspaper or Google it or whatever, but 2010, Lindemar, Linda, second word, MAR, they had a shark attack, and they evacuated, and then all the diehards within 2 hours were back in the water. The second thing was, there was a seal that washed up on the beach, and it had been mangled. It was the first time I saw a dead seal, and it looked awfully a lot like between a human and a dog. It really did. And I was looking down at it, and his Grom came over, which is a young surfer, and he goes, yeah, it probably got hit by either whitey or, half tip or something like that. There was two sharks that he gave names. And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, oh, he turned around, and he goes, over by the south end by Pedro Point. He goes, there's two sharks. He goes, that hang out there. And he goes, all the fishermen know about them. And the third thing was, when I came down and I surfed at El Porto a couple years after I was surfing there, and then I stopped. I either moved, and I think I went up into the valley, and I wasn't surfing as much because it was too far away. They had a guy that had a GoPro on the nose of his board at El Porto, which is down here, but it kind of goes in conjunction with it. He was surfing for 2 hours, and the board kept flipping over when he'd get off or whatever, and so the camera would go under the water and then come back up. Well, he pops the video in his either his computer or his laptop or something when he gets home, and there was a great white, baby great white. It was like 6 foot, which is funny because it's like as big as a man, but it's considered a baby great white. Was under him for 2 hours, and they saw it. It was hitting fish around him. I've been in there and actually had a pod of dolphins swim back at me, and I didn't know what the fuck it was because I could only see the shadows, but they were surfing in the water there. So it's really kind of like magical when you see the dolphins. And usually when you have a dolphin around you, you are 100% more safe than you were if they weren't around, because they will hit them and keep them away and stuff. But it was one of those things. And then something happened when I was in Northern California too, before I left. The next beach break over, from Lindemar, because it was so big, you would go up a hill and then down this little incline and then turn into this place called Rockaway Beach, and it was a local spot and pretty heavy. It was a south, and it had this bowl to it. It was the first time I've ever been caught in a riptide that I couldn't get out of. And then as soon as I got into the channel, it was like, oh my God. But you would have waves, and then there was this restaurant over here with the jetty and the rock front. And you would surf on this side, but you would kind of go out to the bowl. You'd go along the rocks to get out, surf in, either hit the beach or paddle over and then hit the bowl again. I'm watching to see if I'm going, and I've been watching for 45 minutes, and I'm sitting in my truck, getting out, getting in. I think I had some coffee. I was probably still smoking at the time, so I'm having some cigarettes. And everybody kind of leaves, and then there's this one guy in a truck, and he gets out, and we kind of, a lot of times you'll talk to people that are there kind of doing the same for you, as you, which is basically you're watching the water to see which way it's going, how the brake's going, is tide affecting it, whatever. And I see the shadow, this huge wave comes up, and that before it's crashed, and I see the shadow and something, and I started laughing. He goes, "What are you laughing at?" And I said, "Dude, I've been here 45 minutes, and I never saw a surfer go out." And he turned and looked at me, and he goes, "There's no surfers here." And we both just kind of turned back at the same time, and we saw the shadow, and I'm pretty sure it was a fucking shark hitting fish, and it was just hitting them and turning around. But it could have been a dolphin. But it was one of those things, dolphins have to come up for air, and sharks don't. So, but anyways, it was known that there was an area, I mean, that was part of the Red Triangle, which from Monterey to the Farallon Islands to Bolinas, basically it had a line, and then that all went down the coast. But they call it the Red Triangle because it was shark breeding ground, because it was seal breeding ground, and that's their natural food staple. And then on top of that, if you ever, or what I've seen, and this isn't 100%, but there's a book out called Surf Spots of Northern or California, and it goes all the way from Tijuana all the way up to the first surf spot into Oregon. This guy, Alan Bankwright, did this book in the 70s or whatever, but there was a girl that got hit up by Salmon Creek up in Northern California, which is just above Bolinas, and I grabbed the book, and it was right near a river outlet. What I found is most attacks happen right around a river outlet, and it's because A, they like to hunt in murky water, and that's a lot. You get a lot of sand churning because the water's coming through, and then fish come out, and if they can't, the seals go to the fish, so the sharks go to the seals, and if they can't hit the seals, then they'll hit the fish. So basically, it's a food source, and then also you get sometimes sewage that comes out, and they get attracted to that because the fish also get attracted to that. So it's kind of what I found. The girl didn't die either. She turned around and grabbed the gills, and it let loose, but she got like 181 stitches or something like that. And I'm pretty sure it was a great white. So, but it's just one of those things. Like you hear stories, and when you're out there, it's like there's an element. The first time I went surfing, I went with my roommate, and he took me to a place that I should not have been surfing at for a newbie. 45 minutes, I was just getting hammered and getting pushed south, so I never even got past the first break. It was probably for the first 15 minutes I was afraid, because once you can't touch bottom in your head, especially if you were raised in the 70s or you watch Jaws, all you hear is dun-dun, dun-dun. But after about 15, 20 minutes of just paddling your ass off, you're basically just kind of like, you know what, if there is one out here, take me, because I'm so fucking tired right now that just put me out of my misery. But it's interesting because a lot of people, a lot of tough people too that I've met, street people, can't go surf. And it's because there's an element of the unknown. And they can go up and beat the shit out of somebody that's giving them shit on the street or whatever, or, fucking go toe-to-toe with somebody that's brandishing a knife. But when you go out in the water and you can't touch, you are like, whoa. And I've surfed all kinds of things. I've done 2 night sessions, 1 complete. I can't believe this is almost 15 minutes. And I've surfed in like heinous weather, storm, had a leash break, and I've surfed twice in Hawaii and once in Cabo. And that is really surfing when you're actually with no wetsuit, with the sun beating down on you. It's like surfing in paradise. So anyways, that's my shark surf story. Lates.